Hello, and welcome to another episode of the NK Active podcast. My name's Nick Knight, podiatrist and director here at NK Active. So, Happy New Year to you. Hope all is going well so far. You may notice a slight difference compared to normal podcasts. I am here on my own doing a solo episode for January 2023. And the topic I wanted to speak about is really, why don't rehab plans and treatment processes always go to plan? Why is it that sometimes you just don't get the outcome that you want? And a lot of this actually links back to something very topical around this time of year. And it is things like diets, joining a gym, for example. Because you may well set that New Year's resolution of, right, I'm going to stop drinking. I am going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat better and healthier. But you often will find that you'll start these 12-week programs and then you do the program and everything goes well. And then 6 months later, you're back to square one. Or you have every intention of starting, or something comes up and it just doesn't go to plan. And the key word out of all this is consistency. And consistency is the absolute key part when you're coming to any sort of rehabilitation process for treating an injury. Without consistency, it's very, very, very difficult to achieve your goals. And you can relate that back to your diets. You can relate that back to signing up to the gym. We know that normally in January there's a peak of people signing up to the gyms. They're around about March time. That dies off because people just aren't being consistent. And it's not really the fact that people don't want to be consistent. You'll have every intention of being consistent, but there's just not a plan in place of how you're going to achieve it. You haven't overcome the barriers. So if we think about any sort of rehabilitation process, there are certain factors that I think you need to do to achieve consistency. And what we need to do is overcome those barriers. What this means is that you may be suffering with a problem with your Achilles tendon, and your next door neighbor may have had that problem, and then your friend down the gym, and then one of the mums from down the park may have had an Achilles tendinopathy or an Achilles tendon injury in the past. And you ask them what they did, and they've all given their different versions of the stories. And some of the actual treatments they have tried may be some of the same treatments you'll go through. However, your journey is unique to you because you'll have different barriers in place that is going to be constantly trying to gnaw away at you being consistent with that rehabilitation process. So, the first thing you really need to do to try and help achieve consistency is think about what are your possible barriers. What's going to stop you from achieving your goal? So, a barrier could be time. Modern day life makes us time poor. Technology most probably makes us time poor. And if you've got an iPhone, you'll most probably see that message that comes up once a week and telling you your daily average usage. And then you can have a scroll down deeper and that to see how many times have you been playing games, looking on social media, etc. Well, that's time you could be using to do your exercises in your rehabilitation program. It's about trying to healthcare professionals, when you're managing an injury, to try and get that emotional buy-in for you, to sort of say to you, why is it important for you to take time from X to give it to doing your rehabilitation program? Because everyone has time in the day. Now, when it comes to time as a barrier, some people may find it really easy to block 20 minutes out of the day every single day. Some people may go to the gym. You may go to the gym 3 times a week, hour and a half, and that always happens without fail. Other people may find that actually trying to do your exercises in 5 minute chunks throughout the day is much more achievable. So it's about overcoming that barrier. Another barrier may be previous experience. You may have had this Achilles problem for a long time now, seen a number of different people and not got the goal where you want to. And someone's suggesting to you, right, we're going to try this exercise program, and you haven't quite understood why. And you're like, well, nothing worked before. So why am I going to do it again? Because I'm going to get the same outcome. So it's about having those conversations. Another thing, it could be finances. You may find that there are financial implications, means you can't join a gym. But the beauty thing is, if you can't join a gym and use some of the weights, the chances are you've got a bag for life at home, or you've got some weights at home, or you've got household equipment at home. At the end of the day, 10 kilograms is 10 kilograms. It doesn't matter if it's in a nice shiny dumbbell or a few cans of baked beans and a bottle of water. The body doesn't really know any different. There could be other medical problems getting in the way. You may have arthritis around the hip or the knee. So it's about sitting down and working out, okay, what are these barriers? What do I need to put in place to remove as many obstacles as possible? And if we talk about a barrier for me, a big barrier for me is time. I've got two young children, so trying to fit some of my exercise in at home when the kids are in bed, my wife's still at work, can be difficult. For me, to remove a barrier, we brought a Peloton. I'm not suggesting everyone needs to buy a Peloton, far from it. But for me, that allowed me to put the children to bed, do some exercise at home. It was quick, it was easy. I logged on. I could do 15 minutes right up to 90 minutes. I could choose whatever suited my day. So it removed that barrier, and I become more consistent with my exercise because I could do it on a regular basis. Then we need to think about to help achieve consistency is that I think the biggest mistake we in the healthcare industry can make is not treat you as an individual. I think we can all be guilty in the healthcare world of seeing the Achilles problem, just like zoning, right, there's the Achilles down there, not worried about the person attached to the Achilles tendon. But it's so important to get to know the person, to understand why they're here, what are their goals, what are their objectives. Because from my perspective as a healthcare professional, I want to know what the latest research is to help get you better. But at the end of the day, you don't really give a crap about that N equals 10,000 study with 10,000 people. All you really care about is yourself and what can be done to help you achieve your goal. And we see many healthcare professionals as patients. And it's quite interesting when we speak to them about that yes, we're all up for evidence-informed practice and using evidence to continue to improve what we do. And it is so important. But actually, when you're sat in the opposite chair as a patient, you don't really care about it. So it is my job as a healthcare professional to take all of that evidence and translate it back in something that's going to be suitable for you to help you achieve your goals. And then going back to the earlier comment of saying you've got this Achilles tendinopathy, you've got this problem with your Achilles tendon, and you've gone in your local Facebook help groups, you've spoken to your friend, you've spoken down to one of the mums down the park. It's not a one size fits all approach. Yes, the fundamentals of some of the exercises that you are going to be doing may be very similar. They may be the same, but in the method of delivery and how you do them and how you progress is going to be unique for you. Then another thing you need to do to have consistency is have a plan B, have a plan C, possibly even have a plan D. Because do you know what? Through any rehabilitation program, it's not always going to go to plan. We are human beings. We are innately, reliably unreliable. That's what makes my job so interesting. That's why I love my job, because no two people are the same. No two injuries are the same. I could have a clinic full of people with Achilles tendon problems, and every experience is different. And that's what I love. But it's knowing, right, if we're going to try something and it hasn't worked, it's not right. I'm chucking the towel and going home. It's not working anymore. Let's actually, that hasn't quite worked. So let's just change path slightly. Because in reality, if you've got a problem, if this is where you are now, this is where you want to finish, you're going to want that nice, steady trajectory. Let you into a little secret that doesn't really exist. That's not that realistic. In reality, what some people have is this, it's just one big mess. Actually, if you can put a consistent plan into place, you can almost make yourself little stepping stones going up. So if you have a setback, that's all it is, a setback. A setback is an opportunity for a comeback. And it sounds quite cool, but when we take people through a rehabilitation process at NK Active, we will almost say, do you know what? We wouldn't mind if you've had a bit of a setback because we know you will recover from it. But actually, when you recover from a setback, the power that gives you to know, do you know what? I had a setback. The world didn't end. I am okay. I can keep pushing forward. I can keep on achieving my goals. And then really, one of the final points when looking at consistency is having realistic goals and expectations. I would love to be able to turn around to you and say, right, you've come into clinic, you've got an Eurasian Achilles tendon problem, and you want to run back-to-back marathons next weekend. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. If we sort of say, oh, yeah, you can do it, you'll fine, do these few exercises, try this treatment, try that, and it doesn't work, you're just going to lose faith in the process. You're not then going to be consistent. You're like, well, it didn't work. Why should I continue? So it's about managing those goals and those expectations. And that's my job, to sit down and have a chat with you to work out, okay, let's put a plan in place. Let's put a realistic time frame. Let's set mini goals along the way. Also, we'll let you into a little secret. Patience, your goals change. You'll achieve something. And then you think, well, actually, I achieved that. That wasn't that difficult. Where can I go next? And that just doesn't happen with when we treat patients. That happens with everything you do in your life. If you think about everything that you do, you're playing a sport and you think, well, actually, we got promoted out of that league. We thought we'd never do that. Actually, can we push it? Can we get promoted out of the next league? Or do you know what? I've done that half marathon. Let's now push for that marathon. That is absolutely fine. Goals change. And I think if you can manage all of those aspects, I think that's what really builds you to get a consistency throughout that rehabilitation process. And I think if you get the consistency, everything else will fall into place. So if you ever come to see us at NK Active for an injury and a rehabilitation process, you'll find at the very beginning, there's a lot of discussions around about, okay, what's this going to look like? How are we going to overcome the barriers? What do we need to put in place? What's the team around you is going to help you to achieve those goals? How are we going to keep motivating you and pushing you forward? Because as soon as you start seeing results from being consistent, you've then what I call got emotional buy-in. Once you've got emotional buy-in, you will be consistent yourself because you will automatically tell yourself that this is worth my time in investment to achieve those goals. And then once you start doing it, that's it, you're hooked. And that's when we then tend to find you start to get those improvements. And I do really think you could take this outside of injuries. You could take this to joining the gym or doing these diet plans. And this is why I'm not a big fan of these sort of 12-week diet plans and whatever, things along those lines, because it just doesn't help you with that mindset change. It doesn't help change the way you're thinking about things and changing your approach. So even if you haven't got an injury, even if your New Year's resolution is to get a little bit fitter, try some of the things I discussed and spoke about today. Try and think about, how am I going to be consistent? Set the realistic expectations. And one tip, really, when it comes to time, be realistic of what you can devote to doing it. Think about, okay, I've got my working week, I've got my family life and sports and everything. Now let's think about whatever can go wrong in that week. How much time have I got to devote? So, for example, don't set yourself a target of going to the gym 3 times in a week at 5 o'clock on a Friday if you know that there's always going to be a big meeting that runs 3 till 4:30 at work. It often overruns, and then you've only got between 5 and 6, and 6 o'clock you've got to pick the children up from preschool, because all it takes for that meeting to overrun, and you're not going to do it. You don't do it a few times, and you just be like, oh, there's no point doing this, and I haven't done it. So maybe change the day there. Actually, be really consistent with what you're trying to do, and really sit there and think about the timings that you have available. And if you get to a point, then you start to say, well, actually, do you know what? Let's just try 20 minutes 3 times a week. And you say, great, I get a habit of doing it. I become consistent doing that. Then you can turn around and say, well, actually, I think I have an extra 10 minutes on Monday. So let's do 30, 20, 20. And then just slowly and surely keep progressing yourself forward. And whether, regardless, you're going through a rehabilitation program, whether you're trying to go to the gym and get fitter, by doing that, you will see results. So hopefully that is helpful. Hopefully that's going to offer you some tips so you can try and be more consistent with your New Year's resolution. As always, please do ask any questions. Please do subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Instagram, and we shall see you next month. See you later. Bye.